Welcome to the South Park Commons Alumni Demo Faire. This is our first attempt at this, so we'll see how it goes. Here's a quick agenda for the day. We hope it's going to be a forum for our awesome alumni to show their great work to a larger audience. We were trying to kind of give people an opportunity to see things outside of our community. First we're going to hear from our founder here at SPC, Ruchi. And then we're going to do 3 sets of 5-minute demos. And there's going to be a short break in between each set of demos, because otherwise it would be kind of a long day. We recognize that, look, people are very busy. Love it if you could stay on video. If you need to step away here or there, totally understand. And at the top of each hour, I'm gonna run like a brief stretch break. And if you need to go do like a bio break or get another cup of coffee or something like that, that's a great time to do it. But if we stay on time, we should be wrapped up by 3:30. Okay, so that's me. And then these are my 3 beautiful co-hosts. We have Yad, Yang, and Finn. Without their hard work, we couldn't have pulled off this event. Yad's gonna be running the Q&A session at the end of each demo. Yang will be the MC in the Zoom chat. And then Finn is running the front door and is also our enforcement muscle against misbehavior. So the format for the presentations today is live demos. I love the energy that comes from makers showing off the products they've created. And that energy is really core to the community spirit at South Park Commons. That said, our presenters today are brave souls. Anything can go wrong with a live demo and often will. So a big thanks to them for taking a risk and putting themselves out there today. And appreciate your patience if we have to navigate any difficulty. After each demo, there'll be time for Q&A. So if the demo is 5 minutes, we'll do roughly 1 to 2 minutes of Q&A. If it ends early, we'll do a little bit more, or if it ends late, we might have to cut off the Q&A. But please just write into the Zoom chat any questions you'll have as the presenter is presenting, because then the Q&A will be kind of queued up for when the presenter is done, and then my co-host Yad is gonna select a handful of questions to be answered. If you really wanted your question answered and you can get to it, you could try PMing the presenter if they happen to still be around via the Zoom chat PM feature, or we're gonna have a full download of the chat at the end of this event, and I'll be sure to circulate that to all the presenters so everyone can see all the questions and who asked them. Cool. So, I wonder, oh, sorry. Okay. Now, I'm delighted to turn over the virtual floor to our founder here at SPC, Ruchi, to tell you more about our community. So Ruchi, I'm happy to flip slides as you go along.
Yeah, I'll tell you when to flip.
Perfect.
So welcome everyone, and good afternoon. Flip, Andrew. This is what I actually look like today. This is what my days look like. I'm on maternity leave, I have a newborn and I have a toddler. So couldn't have pulled this demo day off without Andrew. So before we get started with anything, Andrew, thanks so much for putting this together. This was his idea and it really took off. So we're really appreciative about that. I had nothing to do. All kudos to Andrew. Next slide. So the first thing that I want to talk about is what exactly is SPC or South Park Commons. We're not a company, we're not an accelerator, we're not an EIR program. So what exactly are we? And it took us a really long time to define and figure out who we actually were. And this definition was actually written by one of our alumni, Zev, and it's the one that resonates most with all of our members and all of our alumni. So first and foremost, we are a community of technologists that are passionate about technology. And we came together to explore, take some time to step back and think about what we wanted to work on, learn and achieve mastery over new skills, and then eventually launch our products. We're specifically not an incubator. We like to think of ourselves as an anti-incubator. We encourage people to take time, like 9 months, a year, 2 years, to figure out what it is they want to work on, prototype ideas, and truly test its viability before spending the next 4 to 5 years of their life on it. We encourage people to start what folks like to call lifestyle businesses. In other words, businesses that are cash flow positive and may or may not be venture backable. Other people come to SPC to write books, sometimes write papers, and then they go back and join the workforce. And yet others come to SPC and decide that they don't want to work in technology anymore and want to apply their skills elsewhere. Next slide. Great. So to truly understand who we are, I think it would be fun to talk about the genesis of SPC. I've been fortunate and lucky to be part of two hyper growth companies, and I joined them when they were really small and saw them scale, and that was Facebook and Dropbox. But when I left, it felt like crash landing. What I really missed was the camaraderie and being surrounded by smart people. And then in Silicon Valley, we kind of have this weird thing that if you're sitting on your couch doing nothing and everyone else is going to solve the world's most important problems, you have this sense of self-doubt and a deep sense of lost opportunity cost. So what I noticed was that a lot of people were like leaving companies or selling their startups and jumping right into the next venture instead of taking some time to think about what they wanted to do. And in my case, I knew exactly what I did not want to do. I did not want to start a company. I did not want to join a company, and I did not want to be a venture capitalist, but I had no idea what it is that I actually wanted to be doing. So I found 10 other people who are exactly like me. Technologists previously had been entrepreneurs or early employees, and then even some interns who had worked for me in the past. And we decided to create a learning group. And the idea was that we would visit one topic a month and study the topic really deeply. So in that way, we were looking into AI in 2015 when there were only 20 research papers, and now today we have 20 research papers a day. We looked into the market for space because one of the co-founders of Planet Labs was a member of the group. We looked into microbiomes. Heck, we even looked into technologies for water purification. So that group grew pretty organically from 10 people to 30 people. And we decided to take things more seriously and like formalize some of the things that we were doing. And for inspiration, we looked at a lot of learning communities from the past, like the Bloomsbury Group, which is really well-known literary society. But the one that we were most influenced by was Benjamin Franklin's Hunter Group that was started in the 1700s. And they had this really simple mission, which is that they existed for self-progress and mutual self-progress. So another one of our alumni, a member of the first 10, Tang, and also very early at OpenAI, took a stab to put this manifesto together for us. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to read our manifesto. But you can skip to the next slide, Andrew. So from those humble beginnings, we're now at 250 members and counting. We've retained some of our very early principles. Everybody who joins the community is basically unemployed, and you have to be. And also 50% of the community are people who want to start companies, entrepreneurs who want to start companies, and 50% are specifically domain experts who have no intentions of starting companies. And those are some of the tenets that we still continue to apply as we think of members and new membership and so on and so forth. Next slide. Once our members graduate, about 2/3 of our alumni do end up actually starting companies. But that's because they've really explored the themes they want to explore, and it's what they want to be doing. And another third, next slide, please, of our community ends up joining research organizations, philanthropies. One alumni even started a nuclear fusion fund as a hedge against fission. So there's no rules as to what you can do and how long it takes you, but we're all here to share that journey with everyone else at SPC. Next slide. So if you're interested in membership, you can definitely apply on southparkcommons.com. I think this slide is missing a few things. Can you go back one? And also, sorry, while we're talking about membership, on the website itself, there's also a set of FAQs that talks very openly about who we are, what we do, what the terms of membership are, etc. And there's also a way to sign up for a newsletter which talks about what our members are doing internally on a quarterly basis at the end of the website. So if you check out our website, there are ways to apply. ways to learn more about the community and the inner workings of the community and how we hope to one day make it an anarchy, and also a way to apply for our newsletter, which is at the bottom of the website. Next slide, Andrew. So it's also really important to talk about the mechanics of the community, and we're very transparent on this fund. No member pays to be a member of the community. However, we do have a fund, the South Park Commons Fund, and it is a fund by the community for the community. Alongside people like Reid Hoffman and Dustin Moskowitz, every member of the community has an opportunity to invest in the fund. And the fund is run by a small team of experienced operators that have started companies or have been really early on at some of the more well-known companies. We've backed over 30 companies. Most of them are companies that have been started by SPC members or referred by SPC members, but we do also fund non-SPC member companies. So if you're not a founder who's part of the SPC community, you can still be funded by this fund. If you're interested in learning more about the fund or talking to our team, feel free to email them directly at fund@southparkcommons.com. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Andrew because we have a lot of demos to go through.
Great, thank you so much, Ruchi. Cool, so it's time for the demos. Our first presenter is Amanda. She'll be presenting Braid. Amanda, I think maybe you should be able to share now.
Myself, yes, here, okay. There we are. All right, my cell phone screen for all 126 people to see. Really excited to be here today and to show you guys Braid. And before I start my demo, I want to say just like how I think important SPC has been to the formation of this company, how often I think about my time at SPC and how critical the early encouragement that I got was in terms of helping to start this company. I graduated from SPC in late 2018, and you know, it's very much a kind of yes and sort of place. That was always one of my favorite things about it, was sort of showing up there every day and feeling like, you know, any idea was encouraged, and just the curiosity and the infectious energy of the place is something, you know, that I still think about. So to get to the demo, this is Braid. Braid is a new type of group financial account where you can pool money with others and spend it together. We just launched actually last month. And what was always interesting to me was thinking about how consumer financial accounts are very much single player. So you have the checking account, peer-to-peer apps like Venmo and Cash App, and we wanted to design something that was very specifically meant for multiplayer use. And so what does that mean? Probably the best way to show that is with an example. A lot of people have been following changes in the education system, and there are these now homeschool pods that have been cropping up. And so a friend of mine works in education, and I was showing him how you might want to use Braid for a homeschool pod. So we created this group together. We both connected our bank accounts. So one of the principles of Braid is that it works with any bank account. So you can say, you know, 3 people have 3 different banks, and we all create a Braid group together to pool money and spend it on specific things. And so here is both of us putting $50 into this account. And then you can see I bought some hand sanitizer and other stuff from Discount School Supplies. Bought something from Amazon. And so the way that we do purchasing is, you can see here, we're generating virtual cards for each of these groups. And so I'll just show this quickly. This is the virtual card that is dynamically assigned to this group. And I'm gonna just show the details quickly and then hide them. But as you can see, you can use this virtual card and it ties directly back to the group. The other thing that you can do is generate an account and routing number on the fly. And so if you want to pay rent, pay utilities, anything like that, each group has its own account and routing number as well. And so the way that these groups work is you can also assign permissions. So for example, if you have 10 people in a group and you want to limit who can spend out of the group versus, you know, who can use the card, who can view the transactions, all of that is built into the group formation. So a lot of the thinking around Braid was, how do we take the principles from social software development over the past decade? So Dropbox, Google Drive, Facebook, all of these you know, huge kind of social products, and actually bring it to banking and financial products. Because I think that, you know, with fintech now, this is really one of the sort of last frontiers and sort of really, really compelling social experiences. And so this is what the group looks like. The other thing I want to show is what it looks like to actually request money. So if you want to request money from people in the group, you can say, okay, I want to do a request for $20 per person. You can customize it. And then the request goes out to the whole group. And then I'm actually going to add now $20 into the group. And there you go. And you can see the balance has gone up by $20. The last thing that I want to show is the physical card. So one of the big challenges around having super flexible, really dynamic financial accounts is this idea of, I think consumers have this embedded idea that you have one card per one account. So I have my debit card, it maps to my checking account. And the problem is when you have these very, you know, dynamic group situations, you don't want to be sending out cards for each group. And so the way that we approached this problem was we actually issue only one card, and then you are actually able to select in the app where you want the card to point. And so I'll just show you what that looks like. So you tap in the app, and then now my physical debit card is connected to the pod account. And so if I go to Target or a craft supply store, I can use the card and the funds deduct directly out of the pod account. Or if I want to, if I'm buying a sandwich, this is actually our team account. We have a sandwich club and we all use it to buy sandwiches. And so you just tap here, and then the card is now paired with the sandwich club. And so you can sort of use the card as a flexible source. I think just kind of philosophically, one of the big things here that I think is really interesting is trying to bring more transparency to money. And so, you know, right now when groups spend together, it's a lot of individual transactions and then sort of compiling and dealing with receipts after, which I think is, you know, somewhat inefficient and is also very, very opaque. And so, you know, obviously recent events have caused a lot of, you know, economic destruction, and we're in this really, really kind of interesting historical place right now. And so, you know, I think for us, sharing money has become this really interesting new shift in people's behavior. So I hope you'll give Braid a try, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Amanda. That was great. I have a question here asking that what have you thought about using oh, actually, no, that's not a question exactly to you. Another question that I have is that, is there any fee? What's the fee like when you connect your bank account and such?
Yeah, so we actually don't charge any fees. Right now we make money from the interchange revenue from when people use the card. And so the offering to the consumer is totally free.
Awesome. Is it available on the marketplace to download and?
Yep, it's live for both iOS and Android.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Amanda. That was terrific. So our next presenter is going to be Waseem, and he's going to be showing off the company that he built, Pilot.
Hey, folks. Thanks for joining. Thanks for staying time. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Waseem. I'm one of Pilot's co-founders and the CEO. And Pilot, in brief, is your trusted finance partner. So we take care of bookkeeping, tax prep, APAR, CFO services. Basically, we manage your company's finances so you don't have to. And we have deep expertise in high growth startups with a real kind of eye towards how to scale with our customers. And before I kind of talk about what Pilot is and show you some screenshots here, a lot of the origin story of Pilot is based on some of our own pain. So my co-founders and I, Jeff, Jessica, and I, we all met a long time ago at MIT undergrad. This is actually the third startup for this founding team. And in each of our previous startups, we wanted to be laser focused on the things that actually move the needle for the company. Product, engineering, marketing, sales, hiring and retaining the best people, et cetera, et cetera. And we found that a ton of our work or a ton of our time was sunk in mechanical back office stuff, and particularly things around the finances of the company. And there were sort of two insights that we had. Insight number one was just looking at the actual work that was involved. I was shocked at how much of this was really mechanical, where the feeling was like, it really seems like a computer could help out with a lot of this work. But then piece number two was, I've never talked to a founder who has said, you know what I really want to do? I really want to buy accounting software. Like, that's what I'm excited to do. Like, no, what the founder wants is someone to solve this problem for them. So with Pilot, we've kind of taken those two ideas and we've married them. We've said, okay, when you work with us, you're paired with your dedicated account manager, who's a full-time employee of ours in our San Francisco or Nashville office. They know you, they know your industry, they know your business. They're managing this process for you. And under the hood, what we're doing is we're building software that allows them to work more accurately, more reliably, more consistently. So we're basically building the Iron Man suit for our internal finance team. And I wanted to give you a peek at some of this stuff that we do under the hood that allows us to work more accurately, more reliably, and more effectively. So the first thing you do is, again, you're paired with your dedicated account manager. In this case, Taylor is a member of our team. You go through our little web interface, you give us read-only access to all of your systems, the bank, the credit card, the payroll processor, the expense reporting tool, everything we need to be able to do the books and to manage your finances. The nice thing about this is we can just slurp down the information we need. We don't need to email you to have you send us PDFs or whatever. And then because there is this sort of very rich interaction, like you talk to Taylor, or Taylor corresponds with you via email, she knows you, she knows your industry, she knows your business, like she has a well-captured sense of what does your business do, what is important to you, what are the problems you're trying to solve, like what are your objectives, et cetera. And we've encoded that into a checklist we work through every single month to bring your books up to date, to do the relevant financial transactions, et cetera, et cetera. And this can all be customized. Now, this is all internally facing. You don't need to deal with this checklist at all. Taylor and our team deal with this checklist so that you don't have to. And there's sort of a rich notion within our kind of framework here of, well, here are specific tasks for a given client of ours that are not, relevant to the entire customer base, but are something they specifically need us to do. And because we're operating at a large scale, we can actually do some really cool stuff. So when we're categorizing transactions, for example, when we see that you've made a purchase from a new vendor, we're able to build a suggestion for that for Taylor based on not only what we've seen in your financial records, but in what we've seen across our customer base. So we can say, oh, that vendor is usually a marketing consultant. That's probably what we should suggest. But my favorite piece of the pilot system is a thing we call a review bot. And the idea of review bot is there's a bunch of really mechanical work that you could do every single month to make sure the books were correct if you went and checked every single transaction. But no human accountant is going to do that because it's incredibly tedious, it's incredibly time consuming. But like the computer doesn't care about it tedious and time consuming. So a review bot will go and analyze everything that's happened and it'll flag some things for the account manager to say, hey, look, normally you pay these vendors and we didn't see any payments for them this month. Or it looks like you might have double paid this person, or this bill was a lot bigger this month than it used to be. Like, this is probably something you should flag, you, Taylor, should flag to your customer, to your client. And my favorite part of all of this is, like, even though we're a software company, a lot of the software we've built is invisible to our client. We'll just like send you an email to say, hey, the books are done. Here are some questions we have. And I think that's by design, because again, I think what the founder wants is solve this for me, not require me to learn this new UI. And the scope here is very broad. We're doing this for about 1,000 companies today, ranging from literally just incorporated folks, including several folks on this call, all the way to companies that are kind of Series C and beyond, where we work with the in-house finance team. So that's Pilot in a nutshell. I think I'm at time, so I'm going to turn it over to Q&A.
Thank you, Waseem. That was great. I have a question here asking that how customizable is the checklist given the industry of the company?
So very customizable in the sense that the beauty of what we do is you're paired with a person, and that person like knows you, knows your industry, knows your business. So there's nothing that we can't do that any other provider could do, because like we also have smart, talented people. But the nice thing is when you tell us to do something, or when we agree on a process, we don't just like write it down on a Post-it note and hope that, we don't forget to do it. We'll actually encode it into the system so that we can do it reliably every time.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you so much. That was awesome. So let's see, next up we have Nikki, and she's going to be presenting Lunch Club.
I'm muted. Hey guys, it's good to see everyone's faces. By way of background, so I joined Lunch Club in November of 2019. Scott and Vlad, who are also SPC alum, started Lunch Club about a year before that. And the premise behind the idea was to connect people for one-on-one business networking meetings so that they could advance their careers using, and part of our product is based in AI. So we have an algorithm that pairs people for one-on-one meetings. I'm just gonna walk you through sort of like our onboarding right now so that people can see it. And let me just share my screen here. All right, so I'm gonna log in, basically. Oh. Sorry, guys, this is should have just logged me in directly, but all right, so every week our users get an email from Lunch Club saying, hey, are you in or not for the week? And you can choose up to 6 meetings. So I'm gonna choose 2 meetings for the week. Basically, what we're trying to do is pair people with similar interests and similar objectives during a time frame that works for them. So for me, I'm gonna select like Thursday at 2 p.m. and Monday at 2 p.m. Previously, I had selected what my 3 top objectives were. That includes business development, investing, and exploring new projects. Every single week, you can change those objectives. So before joining Lunch Club, I was a founder running Campsite, and I would use Lunch Club to either find people to join my team or to like learn about something that I didn't know about. So I'm going to choose business development since I'm the head of BD now, and that's usually a pretty good match for me. Something we're working on right now is communities, and being part of a community, you can match internally with that community. So we've got over 13,000 Harvard alums. And so like, as an example, anybody part of the Harvard community can opt to pair with another Harvard person for that week. So I'm going to say I'm in, and then basically the AI takes that information and takes the information from my public profile as well as my objectives and makes a match during the times that I've indicated. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. It's a really exciting time for Lunch Club because we've grown over 3x in the last 2 months. We're about to announce our Series A led by Lightspeed, Nicole Quinn. Other people that have contributed to the round, Andreessen has come in again, Kotu has come in. We're at 162,000 users right now, and we just hit over 10,000 weekly meetings. So yeah, we also like are playing with a couple different products, primarily firesides, where someone offers to host a fireside chat. We've had almost 50 of those over the last like 4 months. They're pretty well attended. Anywhere from 500 to 2,000 people attend them. And it's a great way to sort of like engage with a really cool, high experience person and ask them questions. So our one-on-one meetings are definitely the bread and butter of what we're trying to do. and then playing around with communities and firesides as a way of growing to 500,000 people. That's it for what we're working on at Lunch Club. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Nikki. That was great. There's a lot of feedback in the comments saying that they love using the product. One question that I got is that can people introduce their own, can they create their own communities, like their own networks and such?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now you can't create your own community. That's something that we do on our end. One thing that we stipulate is the community has to be at least 500 people. You can imagine that if we're trying to pair within a community, liquidity is an important function of making a good match. So the threshold is roughly 500 people. And yeah, happy to talk to anybody who's got community ideas for us. That's a program I'm running. So happy to chat with anyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Really appreciate it. So next up we have Joe, and he's going to be presenting Facet.
Hello. I assume everyone can hear me. My mic is
Good.
jiggling green. All right. Yeah, my name's Joe. I'm the CEO of Facet. Thank you so much. I know Andrew and Yang were involved, but thanks so much to everyone who was organizing this. It's a really kind of great opportunity. I was thinking back on it. This may actually be the first time that I've ever actually demoed Facet to this community, which is a little bit bonkers if I think about it, because it was really born kind of out of SPC. And I really miss y'all. I miss sparring with Ruchi and all of the perks that are associated with being part of the community more actively. Cool. I am going to share this presentation. Cool. So Facet. What is Facet? We are the first fully content-aware image editor. I add the star after image because our users, despite our best efforts, continue to use it as a video editor as well, which is really wonderful and something we're trying to get some momentum behind as quickly as we can. Kind of random feedback from folks that have used Facet. Facet is magic. It is completely intuitive, like a virtual creative assistant that can read your mind. This is a user who works in marketing, does a lot of production work for brands like Apple and Saatchi, things like that. Cool. So most of this talk, honestly, I just want to show you pictures. These are just things that folks using Facet have made that I personally find very, very amazing. We've had a bunch of folks who work in portraiture, both in color and in black and white, across a pretty wide range of subjects and styles and aesthetics, including stuff a little bit more kind of closer to the cutout world. We have users who do work in landscapes, of course. This is some work by Neil Burnell, whose book is actually coming out relatively soon, I think in the next couple of weeks. These are from Wisman's Wood in Brixham, which is in the south of the UK. Of course, our bread and butter, a lot of e-commerce imagery, so production for fashion or other types of, you want to sell a product, you need a bunch of product shots. How do you put that together on a relatively, how do you put that together with high quality on a relatively low budget? And then more interesting things, people have tried to use this to do architectural renders, which I think is a really fascinating application. These are phytograms, so there's not even a camera involved. This is just like directly exposing film, plant matter on film, and then this particular user was doing the recoloring in Facet across a large number of these slides. And animation. So this is kind of what I was alluding to at the beginning. A lot of folks using Facet to stitch together frames for stop motion, just various weird and interesting things. also short videos. So doing using Facet to do the rotoscoping for this type of imagery. Cool. And then a lot of other cool stuff that is uncategorizable. Cool. So I'm going to try to do a demo live, and I'm going to warn you right now that Facet and Zoom are going to fight for video RAM aggressively, and this may or may not actually work. Cool. So this is Facet. This is the actual editor. You'll notice we're based in the web. I am going to attempt to not make improvements to this image, but at least make changes to it. All these images are from Justin Essa on Unsplash. He's an incredible photographer. Cool. So say we want to change the background here. I'm going to select, just grab the background. I'm going to come in and just fill this with a linear gradient. Something kind of maybe these colors, kind of pinkish and orangish, something like that, right? I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna move the Zoom call so I can get to this button. Cool, and so I've should replace the background with this gradient. Let's say we wanna make some changes to the foreground also, create a layer out of that. Let's say like I don't like, that her clothing is slightly teal. I wanna change the color of that to maybe something slightly pinker. And so I can just do kind of selectively, I can recolor these things like that. And then maybe finally, I'm just gonna grab, gonna set up a kind of curves adjustment here for the foreground, and just pull out some tonal contrast in the foreground just completely. And cool, so there you go. So basically, that up a little bit. So basically you can see kind of done a fair amount of work in a very, very small amount of time. That's not what's cool about Facet. So what's cool about Facet is that I can then load up a second image and boom, I have the exact same effect applied to that. And I can do this ad nauseum. That's where Facet gets really, really powerful. Cool. So that's on the artist side. The real power in Facet is actually on the API. So you can now take this pattern that you created and just post photos or put photos against it and get those results back automatically, programmatically, at whatever speed and scale that you need. Cool. I want to say two things. One, we're hiring. We have a really awesome team. If any of the words on this slide are interesting to you, or if any of these words are not interesting to you and you can articulate why we shouldn't be listing these words on our slide, please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk with you more. Our team is super amazing from all over the place. School, no school, good schools, bad schools, self-taught, fully credentialed. Finally, last thing, we're currently still invite only. We're in early access. We have just rounded over about 1,200 users, but I have good news for all of you on the call today. If you type in these letters, facet.new/SPC into your browser, you can actually get a guaranteed login to Facet. You'll get it automatically, which is super cool. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. That was fantastic. A lot of people are impressed by the demo and myself as well. There was a question regarding that. What is under the hood that makes it better than other existing masking tools such as Photoshop and such? That's one of the questions.
It's love. It's just entirely love. We love you much more than Adobe does. But yeah, whoever asked the question, I'm happy to get into the technical details as to why it's better and when it's better. It's a long, long answer though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that was awesome. I got goosebumps. Cool. So next up we have Danny, and he's going to be presenting Form Kitchens.
Awesome. Can you guys all hear me now?
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Let's hope this works. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen and pull up our site. It's probably a good place to start. So really, I think, so one of the things Ruchi talked about early on was actually figuring out what exactly we do and how to articulate it. I think that's something that was very interesting for us actually. And kind of what we settled on is really offering a better way to remodel your kitchen, and really focusing on how we can use software to make that the case. we kind of fundamentally came up with two things. So the first thing is being able to create really beautiful renders of your space. This is an example, very early on in the process. So it kind of, we redesigned the whole design process around that concept. And the second major thing was actually by getting rid of the showroom and having a very lean process, making things to order, shipping them directly to you, we can offer really high quality cabinetry, stuff that you typically only find in a kitchen studio, and give you kind of 40% savings. And given that this is like probably the third biggest purchase you have in your life, that's really been a really big deal for people. So I won't scroll through this too much. There's, in terms of, I think one of the big challenges and one of the reasons it was so hard to just define exactly what it is that we do is just the amount of surface area is kind of massive. Because if you think about all the different design decisions that go into a kitchen, like a kitchen could have over 2,000 parts. And so it's a really interesting information problem. And it's also a really interesting kind of user experience problem, because it's how do you make it intuitive, fun, but also part of what you're selling is personal transformation. Because a lot of the reasons people want to remodel a kitchen is they think it's going to make their life better in some way, it's going to make them easier. It's really a very deeply personal thing. So I'll go ahead and roll this video. I hope you'll be able to hear it. If not, I can try and voice over. Let me know if thumbs up or thumbs down if you can hear it.
I can't hear it. I think there might be a setting where like you can make your computer audio go with your screen share.
Try that. Can anyone help me out on how to do that? Switch to phone audio now. Audio settings.
Yeah. So it's in the audio setting, you share, so it's actually in the share setting when you click the share screen.
Yep.
And then in there, there's share audio.
Oh yeah, I think it's like when you see the panel of like the different screens that you can be selecting from. It's like a checkbox down below maybe.
Yes.
So like
I'll try unsharing.
The chat knows what to do.
I'm glad that everyone's so up to speed on this. It's great. Okay.
Award-winning cabinetry without the showroom markup? How about being able to see your new kitchen in photorealistic 3D? Check out formkitchens.com. Form offers over 3,000 cabinet types, where most suppliers offer around 300. This means we use fewer fillers and make more efficient use of your space. By cutting out the middleman, we typically save clients $10,000 versus suggested retail, allowing us to deliver showroom quality cabinets at a price comparable to big box stores. See how much a kitchen like yours would cost in just a few clicks. Still thinking it over? How about some personalized recommendations for free? Upload photos of your space and schedule a time to meet your designer. Impressed? Our team are trained to build your kitchen around your lifestyle. Ready to get started? Your project is managed from your personal dashboard. Easily share everything you want your designer to know. Our team is on hand to help if you are worried about measurements. We ship full-sized sample fronts straight to your door. Too many choices? Your designer can help you figure out which direction is right for you. Next, we bring your dream to life. Want to change something? Just click and leave a comment. Okay, just right. Finally, we prepare architect-grade plans and check key measurements with your contractor. All our kitchens are precision-made in Germany. Every cabinet is hand-inspected before being shipped directly to you. Form. Kitchens reimagined.
Cool. So that's kind of the essence of what we're doing. I'll probably just go ahead and share a couple of things that may be interesting. I won't go into the full surface area because we'll be here all day. But I think one thing that we thought was cool and is actually quite nice to demo is is a section here where we can get an instant estimate. So one of the things with kitchens, it takes a long time to actually get a price, because people don't really want to give you a price. It's quite intransparent. It's quite complicated, and so this is one of the, I guess, both technical and UI challenge to adapt this, so you could kind of quickly go through, see exactly how it's going to affect the kitchen. Email here. And so straight away you can get a sense of how much it could cost, what's included, popular upgrades. So yeah, so hopefully that gives people a sense of kind of what we're doing, and more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Danny. That was great. I have a question here asking that can the product rebuild existing kitchen designs, or they have to come by and choose the set themselves on the website?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
What I'm getting from that private message here is that they have a picture of a kitchen and they want it to be rebuilt, like a similar kitchen like they find on websites, I guess, or actually, yeah.
Oh, okay. I think there's probably two. There's kind of two parts to building a kitchen. One is getting the layout right, and then one is getting the style. So we can match pretty close on a lot of styles. We have over 3,000 different cabinets, I think over 80 different fronts, like 100 different handles. So normally we can recreate most things. It's actually funny because it's kind of one of these things where what happens hypothetically and what happens in the real world is kind of different. And what we've noticed is in the real world, people are much more concerned about the layout for their kitchen, and particularly budgets. It's not can you create the look, it's like, can you create the look at this price point? And so I think probably to better understand what we're doing, we are building a whole engine. But to start with, I think there's a lot of similarities actually to what Pilot was doing. I actually made notes. I'm going to reach out to Waseem after this, and yeah, just having checklists and structured flows is a huge thing. So I hope that answered it. It was a bit of a roundabout. I didn't exactly fully understand the question. I
appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, great. Next up, we have Grace and Rima, and they're going to be presenting Kintsugi.
Great, thank you so much. It's so nice to be back here. It's been a while, and it's a nice homecoming. South Park Commons is definitely what we consider our original home. So I'm Grace Chang. I'm the founder, CEO, and principal software engineer for Kintsugi, where we're developing smarter mental health care. And I'm joined with my founder and ML scientist, Rima Seilova-Olson. I met Rima about 1.5 years ago at an OpenAI invitational hackathon. And we were really surprised to learn how much we really had in common, including immigrating here to the US, Rima from Kazakhstan, and myself from Taiwan. And then on top of that, sharing the similar challenge of trying to access mental health care services through our provider. We have been building Kintsugi ever since through South Park Commons, and we've recently been awarded $3.5 million of National Science Foundation SPC-er grants to develop new artificial intelligence for healthcare. And today we are very excited to demo one of our latest breakthroughs, and that is we are now able to score clinical depression and anxiety from 1 to 2 minutes of speaking on the standard PHQ-9 and GAD-7 tests. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I hope people can see my screen.
I think it's loading.
Okay, great. Are we able to see it now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So just to give you a demo of our voice biomarker diagnostic, it is an API endpoint that sits within our Kintsugi consumer application, which is an iOS application that allows you to voice journal. So if we go ahead and record an entry, let's go ahead and just choose this first prompt. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful to be able to see everyone on this call today. South Park Commons has been such an instrumental community in being able to work with others on such innovation and just being able to transform how we use products today, and just really excited to demo this. So we'll go ahead and create a title for this entry. And what we can tell from this entry, if we go into voice analysis, is the voice analysis gives us a breakdown on the PHQ-9 and GAD-7, which is a 9-question survey on the severity of depression and anxiety from the biomarkers that we hear that is resonant within the voice. It is scored on a scale from 0 to 3 at a sub-question level. So you can see on this voice analysis that the depression markers are quite low and the anxiety is maybe a little bit more moderate. And so that's an example of us being able to speak into the diagnostic and it giving that sort of real-time feedback. Let's try this in a different language. 我的名字是张清颖，对不起，我的中文不是很好，谢谢。And if we create a title for this entry, and have a chance to go back into the voice analysis, we get a sense of depression and anxiety scores that are similar. And so we're really excited to be able to deploy this technology because it is both language agnostic and we are able to score at a sub-question level, which is truly state of the art. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. We are now working with United Healthcare and multiple 7-figure contracts to deploy our API endpoint across call centers, telehealth platforms, and remote patient monitoring apps. And we really couldn't be more excited to support the triage and real-time support of scaling mental health care in today's virtual environment. I'm really excited for us to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Grace. That was great. I have a question here asking if the app is available on the marketplace.
It is. It is available in the store today, and it is available only on iOS.
Awesome. I have, by the way, a lot of people saying that it's amazing. They love it. One other question that I have here is that how do you prevent users from trying to fake the voice, I guess?
Yeah, I can take that question. So voice biomarkers are, they've been studied as voice can be affected by time of day, by accent, by language, by mood. And over and over in studies, they found that there is a way to differentiate between emotion and depression and anxiety. Depression itself has very specific voice features that are characteristic. And even in the groups where they elicit negative and positive emotions from professional actors, that can still be separated from the biomarkers that are responsible for depression. So the mood and how we try to fake and pass for a healthy person or a person without anxiety, voice still has specific ones that are specific to depression and anxiety, and it can, it's really difficult to fool the algorithm.
Brilliant, thank you.
That was so cool. The multi-language feature, especially, just kind of like, I don't know, I didn't see that coming. I thought that was really awesome. Thank you so much. So we're at the top of our hour, and we're at our first break. You're welcome to, go use the bathroom, do whatever. I do want to kind of keep the program going. So we're going to come back here at 2:05. So we'll be ready to get going again in 5 minutes with Colin from Clerk. And then I don't know about you, but like I find that when I sit on Zoom all day, like my back is hunched and I'm like all stressed out. And like, if I were to take the Kintsugi score, I'd be like 100 on the anxiety or whatever. And so I just thought I'd lead a little bit of stretches because it gives an opportunity to kind of like, break out and get moving and get active. So you're welcome to play along, or you're welcome to just laugh at me as I just look silly. Let's see. All right. Does that work? That's what it works. Cool. So we'll just start like up top, the arms, a little like up high, right? And then come into like that cactus arm. I don't know, any of these yogis out there, they've probably done this one before, where you're kind of bringing it down into a T, but as you're doing that, you're pulling your shoulder blades back in. I really like that one. That feels really good. Wow, there's a lot of people following along. I definitely thought I'd be alone with this. Well, we'll come back up and back into that cactus. If you can do it with your breath, you're really good. I'm not that good of a yogi. More. All right, cool. And then we're going to get a little more of the whole body involved. So with a healthy bend in your legs, kind of like get that bend down, come down, and if you can just hinge from the hips ideally, and you can lower your arms. I'm not even close to the floor, but if you get to the floor, good for you. And then just kind of let it dangle. You can bend in and out one knee and the other, and you end up kind of like rotating left to right. I find that with the bends, it's really nice. Oh, the knee just popped. That was great. Cool. And then with those knees bent, just kind of like roll your back up. One vertebrae at a time. Slowly until you get back up. And the last thing to lift is your head. Then we'll stretch back up above. Get that cactus arm in. Yep, perfect. And we'll do the same thing again. Full set. This is the second one. We'll do a third one. And then back down to your feet. If you want to try and keep straighter legs this time, you're welcome to. Or you can keep it bent. In the middle of that same rotation, left to right. And then slowly roll up. All right, that's really good. So now a little bit of like a side stride. I find you don't have to go too wide, but you can. I'm choosing to use my left foot first, facing forward. I'm going to bring my shoulders square to my body, perpendicular, and then kind of hinge from the hip. And I really like this for the hamstring, kind of that high glued hamstring on that knee leg. If you're feeling a little burn there as you get close to parallel to the ground, I just feel like it's great. And the reason why I like to focus on hamstrings right now is because when I'm sitting in a chair, that's what gets tightest for me. For you, that'd be your own thing. Come back up, and then just pivot, do the same form in the other direction. Come back out, perpendicular, to the ground, or sorry, parallel to the ground. Back. I'm going to do that once more. Go back to the left side. If you hear me groaning, that's probably, I can save the audible sighs. Or or lean into it. Sigh as loud as you want. Cool. Okay, great. Look, we got 2:05, right on time. I think we can roll right into the next demo.
That was scary, Andrew. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. I guess I'm next, so I should just roll into it.
Yeah, Colin. So this is Colin from Clerk. Can't wait to see what you have to show us all.
Cool. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. My name's Colin. I'm the founder of Clerk, and we build developer tools for auth and user management. I'm going to share my screen. This is going to be a bit of an engineering heavy demo. We're actually going to add auth and user management to a brand new app. So I'm going to call this the SPC Faire app. How should users sign up? We're going to say email address, Google OAuth. We're going to do the password of this flow, a one-time password, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to require first and last name, brand color. I'm just going to pick this lovely shade of green. So this is kind of our application dashboard. If you're familiar with developer tools, this might stick out. So we actually have a client API and a server API. The reason for that, it's really born out of the problem we're solving. Typically, dev tools, you need to have a secret key authenticating requests. For sign up and sign in, it's actually expected to come from an untrusted client. So we can expose our endpoints to the client and just save the developer a bunch of work. You'll notice that this URL looks a little bit wonky. In production, this actually becomes auth.yourdomain.com. And the reason we do that is so we can set secure HTTP-only cookies on your behalf. And that's really the gold standard for session management. Also, because this is like spun up one per application, there's actually DNS propagating in the background. And I didn't want to trust that for a 5-minute demo. So I made a separate app called Happy DNS ahead of time. We're just going to dive right into it and add Clerk to a Create React app. So I have, this was already running. And then I've also already installed our NPM module. And the first thing I'm going to do is just copy all of these imports so I don't have to do it line by line. But from here, I'm just going to do everything live. So first step is calling load Clerk, and we need that client API I was talking about. And then we need to wrap everything in a Clerk provider component. This is a React context under the hood. And it just gives information to children about if the user signed in or not. Nothing's changed yet. We haven't actually done anything to change anything. So that's all expected. Now we're going to wrap this again in a signed in component. And what that means is that anything inside is only going to render if we're signed in. We're not signed in right now, so the screen just went white. The opposite of that is signed out. So we're just going to put a quick signed out message, and we're seeing that we're signed out. This is where the demo starts to move a little bit faster. Now I just added this sign in component, and this is the modal we just put together. We've got our lovely shade of green, and I'm actually going to sign in with Google because it's the fastest. And now, as expected, we're seeing the hello world again. So this is kind of successfully gated. I'm actually going to add in our own hello world, just so you can see how this works. So this is using React hooks, the use user hook we provide. So we're just saying hello to the user's email address. And I'll drop this in. Wow, Zoom really steals focus a lot and messes up my typing. But that's okay. So we're seeing hello, Colin at Clerk.dev. And now, just to kind of drive on the point, like we're seeing a ton of consistency in the way people build auth and user management. So we made this user button component, and it's kind of what you'd expect, right? So it's just this button. Normally it's on the top right. I haven't positioned it yet. But here you can manage your account, right? We provide this whole screen. Users can come in, set up 2FAC. Doesn't work yet, but it's coming together very quickly. The other thing in this user button is you could add another account. I will go through that. We'll sign in as my other Gmail. And now we're signed in as 2 separate Gmails, and I could switch between them. Last thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to sign out of all, and then I'm going to sign in again, but not using Gmail. And here we have to wait for an OTP code. I had Jeopardy music queued for you while we wait. And it just came through. 863345. And so we're signed in again. And the reason I wanted to do that, you'll notice that this Google OAuth profile picture is still there. And it's basically showing that we didn't create a second account right now. We deduped successfully, which is a big pain if you ever hit that before. That's all I got. You should try to use it. It's at dashboard.clerk.dev. We are hiring. Email me, Colin at Clerk.dev, and also join SPC. It was great for us.
Thank you, Colin. That was great. I had a question, which I think you answered. Is the web app available to sign up for?
Yeah, it's available. We don't let people productionize yet. We've got a bit more for that, but you can test with it, experience the developer experience, and give us any feedback. We'd really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. So next up, we have Chengyin, and he's going to be presenting Slab.
Hey, everyone. Well, first, that was a great demo. Thank you. My name is Chengyin, and I'm super excited to be here today. I was a member at SPC briefly, so it's good to be back here. I'm a co-founder at Slab, and I'm very excited to tell you about my product. Some background, we're a team knowledge-based product. We launched in 2018, and we're already used by thousands of companies. Here are some logos. Before starting at Slab, I was at Airbnb, and from onboarding to answering questions on Slack, there was a lot of issues with documentation there. And those problems inspired me to work on Slab. To dig a little bit deeper, here are 3 major issues we want to address with Slab. First is the frustrating UX. I've never heard anyone tell me that they like Confluence. The UX is a huge barrier for anyone to contribute or to find things. And then there's knowledge silo problems. We use all kinds of tools, and each one of them is a silo for knowledge. And lastly, content just kind of dies over time. They become inaccurate, and it's really hard to manage that without the right tools. All right, so enough slides. Let me show you the actual product. So here you're seeing actually our Slab, and this is the homepage. We have the simple and elegant design, and all the details were thought out to make you work faster. Favorites can help you go to the most important post that you select, and the viewed help you jump back to what you were working on. For every post, we actually provide a full content preview, so you don't need to click into there and come back to locate the thing you're looking for. Let's take a look at a post. Our goal here is to optimize for the reading experience, but not compromise on the editing. If you have coworkers who are not technical, they can use the beautiful toolbar to edit and format. And if you're technical, you probably want to use Markdown, right? So it's pretty easy, pretty fast. And we have many formatting here, and all of them are well thought out, so you can be expressive, but not excessive. You can even bring content from other tools directly into your posts. Here, you're looking at mentions from our GitHub or our Asana, and you can embed charts, Figma, videos, all kinds of content into your Slab post. Post itself is not going to solve the problem. That's why we have topics to organize them. Our topics function like a combination of folders and tags. Each post can be in multiple different topics, kind of like tags. And then the topics themselves, teams can be super creative with the cover photo and description, and the same preview behavior here can help you navigate fast. If you want a bird's eye view and really have your content one click away. We'll have this topic board. You can see every single post here, every single post, every single topic here, so you can navigate and find things super easy. Now, even with all those tools, you probably want to search for things. So let's take a look at search. First off, you probably notice how fast our on search is. And then we not only search on Slack, but also help you find information in other tools, so we can break the silo problem. Here we're looking at Asana or Slack, and some of them even have a preview, so you can confirm it's what you're looking for before jumping into them. So that's kind of the basics elements of Slack. We have posts, topics, and a really powerful search that integrates with other tools. Lastly, just a sneak peek that we have integrations that helps engineers to keep their documents really close to a code. The example here is this post is saved in our repo, but all the edits here I do, or the PRs I submit and merge, will be immediately reflected in your Slack. So that way, your engineers can still manage their workflow, but centralize and organize their post. So that's a brief demo of this of our Slack, and I will take any question you have.
Thank you. That was awesome. I have multiple questions that are around how does Slack differ or overlap with products like Notion and Slide and Guru?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do hear those products a lot, and I would say a footnote here is when we talk to the larger customers that actually come to us, they really compare us to those products, but are more focused on like Confluence. I think partly is that for product like Notion, you really have to buy into the whole ecosystem of their tools, right? But what if you want to use Jira or the best in class of like each one of those tools they provide, they don't really integrate with them well. And Slack really want to be the best knowledge management system, and that's it. So that's why you see the integration with Asana. We're actually integrated with Jira, WriteUp, Trello, all those tools. So you can use the best tool you want in each category without having to buy into the whole system. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was great.
Cool. Right. Thank you. And thank you, Andrew, for organizing this.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate you, Demo. So that was awesome. We have next up Masa, and she's going to be demoing render.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yep, great.
Hi, I'm Masa. I am an engineer at Render. So our CEO is a SPC alum, and we're so happy to be here. I think half the team is here today. Just gonna share my screen with you. Okay, perfect. So what is Render? Let me tell you a little bit about what we do. Render is basically a tool that aims to make it as easy as possible for developers to deploy all sorts of things on the cloud. So if you're a developer and you've tried to deploy something, you've probably come across AWS, GCP, and these are tools that there are books on how to use these things, and it can get too complicated too quickly. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have tools that are a little bit simpler to use, like Heroku, but then you have to pay a lot of money for these things. So we sort of bring the best of both worlds together at Render, just in order to make it super simple to go from something that's on your local host to production level. And so today, I'm just going to demo something really simple. I'm just going to deploy a simple Flask app on Render, and then we'll take it from there. So this is render.com. I'm just going to click on this button for signing in. And as soon as you open the dashboard, it's really simple. It's intuitive, and you don't really need to read a manual as to how to use it. So we're today creating a web service. So I'm just going to go ahead and click New Web Service. So I've already connected my GitHub account with my render account. So you can see all of my repos here. So we have my Flask app that's just a really simple Hello World app here. So I'm just going to go ahead and search it up. There we go. So you can see that render's already detected the environment, the build command, the start command, and everything. Only thing I need to change is, well, I want to deploy my master branch, and I need to give it a name. So let's just go ahead and name it SPC test. And yeah, so I can also choose a different set of resources, but I think the starter plan would be good for this one. And just like that, I can click on create web service and it should be ready to go. So you can see that when you do that, you can see all the build logs right here. And it will take just a few seconds to build everything. And once that's done, every service that is publicly exposed gets a very convenient onrender.com endpoint that you can just access your application through. So here, let's just wait for this to be done. It's still in progress. As soon as this little thing turns to live, we can access our little Hello World app. Any second. Perfect. I think it's done. Yeah. And with my Wi-Fi. Okay. I hope you guys are still with me. I think my Wi-Fi had a thing there, but we can see the Hello World app here. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a quick change in my file, in my landing page. I'm just going to call it Hello SPC. And let's go ahead and commit that change to my master branch. And going back to my render dashboard and clicking on the events page, you can see that it already detected that this new commit was made on my branch, and it's already deploying the new changes onto the branch. And as soon as that is done, then we can see the changes without having to change anything. It's automatic, auto deploy, done in a few seconds, and that should now be available if I can do a hard refresh here. Oh, execute. Let's go back and see. Yeah, it should be live. Okay, there we go. So hello SPC, and just like that, my changes are reflected in my deployment. So that was just me deploying a simple Flask app in just a few clicks. And you can probably imagine if you want to do something like this starting on AWS today, you know, creating an account and everything today, it would probably take you hours to days just to play around with the different moving parts that are involved in building an application on these kind of huge cloud providers. There are so many other tools you can use, databases, you can use infrastructure as code, but I'm not going to get into that today. So we're just going to make it, just going to open up for questions. Today we have Anurag here as well. He will be taking questions as well here. Thank you.
Thank you, Masa. That was a great demo. I have a question here, which I think you partially answered, but I'm just going to ask it, which is, how do you determine the cloud resource configuration for, I guess, deploying the product, the web app?
I can take that. I'm not completely sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I would say the same way. Yeah, I would imagine the question has to do with things like the environment setting. That's what I would imagine the question is coming from. But yeah.
Well, we don't determine anything for you. if you have an app and you have environment variables and configuration, you can just add them. And in addition to environment variables, we have things like secret files. We have environment groups that you can share across multiple services. So you don't have to change them for every service. And then the actual compute resources are just plans. So you start out with a $7 server and you can go up to something with many more CPUs and many more gigs of RAM. And if the app does not match those plans, then you can, for now, just send us an email and we'll create a custom plan for you. In fact, Flocknet has demoed, right? Flocknet,
they decided not to. Aaron decided not to.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so they're also a render user, and we created a custom Elasticsearch plan for them with tons of memory. So it's pretty flexible. Over time, I think we'll just let you pick the CPU and RAM you want. But actually, what we want to do is just decide that for you. And that would be based on things like request, latency, and automatically vertically scale up your app and scale it back down. We're not there yet. There are some technical constraints, but that's where we want to be. So you don't have to decide how much memory and CPU you need. The platform decides.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Cool. Thank you to both Masa and Anurag. Cool. So next up we have Hari, and he's going to be presenting abstract ops.
Hey folks, hope everyone can see the screen okay. So the simplest way to describe abstract ops is that it's an operating system for your company. There's operating systems for every other stack at startups, but somehow the back office, which is HR, finance, legal, vendor management, compliance, has a ton of great point solutions, but nothing to tie them together. So I'll get into a little bit of how we are trying to tackle that problem. So first off, why is this a problem? It's the fact that 10% of headcount at companies, and this is both early stage companies all the way up to like public companies, benchmarks indicate that 10% of headcount is dedicated to operations. Now, that in itself is not a bad thing. It's just we think it's really inefficient and siloed right now. If you're going to be an early stage company, let's say a 10-person company, you're going to spend 1,000 hours managing ops. And the problem is usually there's no dedicated person. So it ends up being the CEO or one of the founders or founding team members who really should be focusing on other things, better things, end up spending 1,000 hours a year managing all these things. And it's never been easier. Like I said, there's lots and lots of great point solutions, right? Including a couple of SPC companies. But the thing is, none of them talk to each other. None of them tell you what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to onboard some of these tools and how they connect to each other and so on and so forth. Most of all, even when you're using all of these tools, you sometimes have to log in and out of a bunch of these tools to actually get something done. You end up researching which one is the right one at the right time. You go down rabbit holes. It's really just death by 1,000 cuts. And finally, you'll get it wrong. And getting it wrong actually means, and even the fear of getting it wrong actually means that you have a ton of cognitive load and anxiety over doing something wrong. For example, the number of times we've encountered people who are going through co-founder breakups and they're like, oh, do we get an IP assignment agreement with them, right? Or for example, not filing workers' comp for workers' comp or something like that and end up getting hit with fines and things like that. So, okay, how do we navigate this, right? How do we actually go about and pick all the tools and make all the right decisions? So the point here is actually that that's not what founders should be doing. That kills productivity, that kills focus. The core team at a company should be focused on only two things, and that's product and customers. Most of all, this is not really strategic work. It's just copying and pasting things between PDFs and web forms and SaaS tools and so on and so forth. So the way we solve that is to first, in order to run your company, you have to know your company. So we connect all your existing tools and pull in all of your data and documents as it relates to the HR, finance, legal functions. We then use that to generate new processes. It's like, oh, you've sent out an offer letter, you probably need to send out an equity grant. Oh, you just closed a safe fundraising, you probably need to do securities filings. Oh, you raised your Series A, you need to get director and officer's insurance. So all of these things are if this, then that rules. That's how operators actually run companies. We're just turning all of that into a very robust process engine. But finally, because operations is still pretty broad-based, it's very fragmented. we put a fractional operator on the ground to actually help fill in the gaps and exercise some judgment and make sure things are done right. So I was talking about different aspects of a company's stack. So, engineering, product, and design has AWS and Figma and GitLab and things like that. Sales has Salesforce and Segment. We're building the operating system for the corporate stack. So the only plug I have, we're onboarding customers slowly, but the bigger need right now is that we're hiring a couple of product engineers and product designers and so on. The only thing I'll throw out, feel free to hit us up if this is interesting, if this general space and enabling the next generation of companies to build more efficiently is interesting to you. But honestly, our biggest draw is that we're wacky, we're fun, and we have way more generous equity compensation than any other company that you've encountered. And we love people who are hustlers, who have raw intelligence and endless curiosity. Let me do a quick demo of our product. We're not designers, that's why we're hiring a product designer. But hopefully it should give you an idea for how powerful some of this stuff can be. So this is actually Abstract Ops' own repository of documents, right? So this is all of the documents. You can go and look at it by, people or equity documents and so on. You can click on a specific person. In case you guys noticed it, Phil Hiriatnia actually did a project for us. So this is one of our co-founders. So we actually click on his link and it actually pulls up all of the documents he's ever signed, tagged by the type of function it belongs to, the type of document that it is, the events that it corresponded to, for example, his hiring or his board actions with respect to equity issuance and so on. You can go and look at the entire list of vendors that you have signed contracts with. And then you can also navigate by the types of events that have happened. So for example, I can filter by when, adding employee, and that pulls up every time that an event has happened with adding an employee, and you can actually look at the list of people that fall into that bucket. So that's fine, that's cool. You can navigate all this stuff. That seems useful, but that doesn't really let you do things yet, right? So that's where our ability to essentially create new processes based on, let me actually quickly cycle through. So we've actually modeled out dozens, close to 100 processes. Some of them are not enabled yet because we still have more work to do, but essentially like everything with respect to people ops, finance ops, HR, finance, compliance, et cetera, is all modeled out. So if you were to, for example, raise a safe, so we actually just issued safes from our own platform for our seed round, you can actually enter, test investor, name, and then ops@abstractops.com, test address, Art Vandelay. That's a little Seinfeld joke if any of you are fans. It's general partner. Then select an issuance effective date. And then it's a little slow to load, but it'll actually generate the underlying document in order to actually send out the safe. Now, why is this better than just doing this in DocuSign? Well, first of all, we template it for you so you don't have to, because you're always afraid you might get it wrong. But the second thing is it actually tells you what you're supposed to do after, right? It's drafting and filing your securities filings, getting your board consent in place, it's updating your cap table records. And the thing is, you can just delegate to ProCO and we'll take care of it. We're gradually building out more and more connectors to actually push this to Carta or push this information to Gusto or reconcile with QuickBooks to make sure the wire was received and stuff like that. But in the meantime, you can just delegate it to us and we'll take care of it for you. So yeah, you could just basically affix your signature and hit send, and then everything's tracked here, and it'll the finished documents sent to all the parties. So I'll stop there. I'm actually basically at time, but if you have a minute of questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Harry. That was fantastic. I have a couple of questions. One of them is that how much of the tech is automated versus human in the loop? I would assume the question is around the actual task and the operations.
Yeah, so right now, about 30 to 40% of the things that we need to do are actually automated. So if you look at what most of operations is, it's collecting information via form fields, it's issuing documents for signature, it's making payments, it's and then there's 3 or 4 others. So it's sending emails and notifications, it's logging into other systems and making changes, it's a couple other things, right? So we're done with the first 3 of those 8 steps. And rather than trying to take a single process and automating it end to end, we took 100 processes and we're automating clusters of tasks that underlie it.
Thank you, Harry.
All right, cool. That was great. So next up we have Erin, and she's going to be presenting Riya Collective.
Thank you, Andrew.
To me, your volume is quite low.
Oh,
Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, as you lean in a little bit, it gets better.
Perfect, awesome. And we're just sharing our screens now. So I'm Arian and
I'm Serena.
We're the founders of Riya Collective, and we were members of SPC in 2019. And yeah, we're excited to be kind of sharing our updates since then.
Yeah, we've got a bit of an interesting story since we were in SPC, where a lot of people remember us as an Indian clothing rental company, and we were primarily catering to Indian weddings. The idea was it's impossible to access these clothes from here. They're really expensive. They're only used once, very similar to the rent-the-runway model. Is there a better way to access this clothing? So we started off as that, and that's what we did primarily through 2019. The business was growing. We were in the winter batch of YC. In Q1, we generated over 100K in revenue and felt very ready to tackle wedding season, which hadn't even begun yet. All of this was pre-COVID. So naturally, when COVID hit and there are really not any more weddings, we had to go back to the drawing board a little bit and think about what we really loved about Riya 1.0, as we're now calling it, and how we can expand it into something bigger that really fits better with what the next year or two are going to be like.
Yeah, so Riya Collective 2.0 is a marketplace that will actually connect global designers to consumers here in the US, showcasing their collection and making it easy to ship directly to the consumer. And what COVID really taught us and what led us to this vision is that fashion and retail is broken. And we've seen that across many different dimensions of fashion over the last 6 months. When we see retail stores that have been around for multiple decades going bankrupt and shuttering, to all of these poor designers who are actually making the handicrafts in these global countries being without work, to all of the impact, huge negative impact that fashion has on the climate. So we have a really ambitious vision to change how retail is done ultimately. And so Riya Collective is a marketplace bringing all of these beautiful designs from home decor to clothing to the US in a sustainable way. And here are some examples of, as you can see, it's kind of like loungewear. It ranges from loungewear to kind of more dressed up everyday clothing to home decor. And it's styles that you can't access unless you're physically in another country. So it's things that are being made by these handicrafts and these makers around the world. And our vision is to bring it to life here in the US and make it really easy to access them. The two core ways in which we are different. One way to think about it, if it's difficult to kind of convey, is that it's like an Etsy, Etsy for global clothing, essentially. But the two ways in which we're different is through, one, team buying. So we're enabling a way for, if you're a consumer, you could buy one-off products like you would on an e-commerce site, but you can also create a team and buy multiple SKUs of one product and get it at a discount. So we're enabling this like organic growth and sharing to reduce the cost both for the designer as well as the end consumer. And then buy and consign is another core feature. So bringing us back to when we started with the rental business, we knew that the consumer wants to access many different styles, but not necessarily have it sit in their closet for the rest of their life. And when fashion is no longer used today, it ends up in landfills. So we want to create a circular marketplace where you can buy clothing from these designers, and when you're no longer using it, you can sell it secondhand on our marketplace really easily. So that's kind of where we're at today. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. We wish we had a demo for all of you today. We're very much in the going back, as I said, to the like research, planning, creating the vision phase that we thought we had completed in 2019. But COVID's led us back to the drawing board, and we're really hoping that this will be maybe a blessing in disguise and lead us to like an even bigger and more exciting vision. So really right now, we did raise our seed round pre-COVID in March. So it's not that we're looking for investors, but if anyone wants to have a conversation and is just excited about this space, knows something about global supply chain, global retailers, because we're in the research phase, we'd love to connect with you. Just send us an email, founders@riyacollective.com. Thanks.
Awesome. That was great. I have a question here, which is how are you planning to educate the market that isn't familiar with these global styles, clothing styles?
That's a great question. I think that the original market, the first early adopters will often be people who are second generation, maybe from that country and already familiar with the clothing. And then they are kind of the evangelists that start to spread the word more about it. But it's interesting to see also a lot of people who shop at like Anthropologie and Zara and places like that and are not, let's say, Indian, who are already asking themselves, well, where is this stuff made? Like, it's all made in India. So why am I not paying the designer directly? Like, why is there this huge middleman? So what I'm saying is a lot of these styles are more familiar to the Western audience than you think they are. They're just kind of like advertised in a different way. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Great. All right, so next up we have Ben, and he's going to be presenting Room.
Awesome. It's great to be here. We've been a part of SPC since October, basically a week after we started working on Loom, which at the time was a kind of group texting app to bring people together in person for in-person events. And it was kind of a mix of iMessage and Instagram stories, Facebook events. And when COVID happened, we pivoted towards virtual events. We were still kind of working on the same thing. We added video chat, but the problem was that we were solving the wrong problem. So we joined YC this past summer and realized that the real problem is that it's, as great as this Zoom meeting is, it is very much a meeting. And going to a virtual party on Zoom felt more like going to a virtual meeting where your friends happen to be there. One person talks and everyone else is listening. So I'm going to give you a demo, demo kind of our product. Chenzo, can you talk and can I get a thumbs up?
Hello,
Chenzo.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay, great. So this is Room. Right now, it just looks a lot like a Zoom. There's just 4 of us talking. But the really special thing that we can do is we can pull people aside. So I'm going to pull Bryant aside. Hey, Bryant.
Hello.
We can continue to have a conversation. And now, as you can see, Jacob and Chenzo can continue to talk and have a conversation in their own space, just like you would at a party. So, at a party, there may be 20 people there, but there's probably 5 conversations going on, and that's the experience that we're trying to, and the social dynamics that we're trying to simulate and replicate here. So, Brian, we can continue to talk and have our conversation.
Yeah, do you want to play poker? We can give that a try.
Hey, why don't you go back and join Jacob and Chenzo? The other thing that I can do, the other thing that I can do is I can make an announcement. So now I'm on stage, and when I'm on stage, Bryant, Jacob, and Chenzo can all hear me, but as you can see, they can continue to talk and have their conversation. People use the stage to do a number of different things, like specifically hosting bar trivia is a great kind of use case of the stage. It allows you to have the event, host the event, but then still join with your team and experience kind of what you intended to do, which is socialize with them. The other awesome thing that we just added to Room last week is the ability to play games built directly into the platform. So we set up this poker game. All we had to do was basically add the link. And now, let's see, I can sit down and play the game. At SPC, actually, we've been playing poker every week during quarantine. We recently switched over to Room, and we were so inspired by the great poker experience that we were doing, in the browser that we said we should build it right in. And so what we're doing is building up a kind of app store of games and experiences. We also have codename Settlers of Catan, and we're working with more developers to bring more apps and games onto the platform. You'll see once we get to the next hand that I have my own view of the board. It's not, not just a screen share, but it's actually an entire embedded website. And this is totally a third-party site. All they had to do was basically change one line of code to work with us, but we're working with developers directly. And let's see, Jacob, if you can move quickly, we can see my hand. And even when I'm here, one of the cool things that I can do is I can still pull, Chenzo out into another conversation. I can go back to the board. We can still have our separate view of the board. Chenzo and I continue to talk and continue to socialize.
Yep.
And then when something exciting happens, I can go all in, and then I can go back and in this room with Brian and Jake. Cool. The other, I think, cool thing to share is that we've built this entire kind of video infrastructure and own this entire infrastructure. There's lots of like kind of video as a service providers, Twilio, Agora, Dailyco that you may have heard of, but they didn't allow us to do the kinds of things that we're doing. So that we want to do is, separate the video and audio channels as well as composite video on the server and kind of do really interesting things. So the ask for the group is if you know great video engineers that are excited about working on hard problems, send them our way. And that's Room. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat mentioning that we've been using Room, no doubt. One of the questions I have privately sent is that when would the, or I guess it's not an API, the question says, will there be a chance to add your own apps to the video? Like
yeah, so that's, yeah, we're working on basically turning what we have right now into a kind of developer platform app store so that anyone can add their own apps and experiences into Room. And right now we're working on kind of speccing out how that interacts with the video. So for example, in Codenames, which is a team-based game, you can split up into, you'd be able to split up into separate teams and then do turns and stuff like that. We haven't kind of specced out that platform yet, but that's what kind of next steps for us.
Right on. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if you understand what just happened there. Like, video conferencing was demoed inside of video conferencing. Like, that was really cool.
I promised Andrew that I would show a video, and then I audibled and did the demo.
And yeah, literally last night I was just certain this was going to be a video demo or whatever. And yeah, so that's really cool. They pulled that together so quick. I'm very impressed. Thanks to Ben and the rest of the Room team for doing that. Great. So we've hit the next break. For this break, Yang is going to lead us in some Tai Chi exercises. Again, if you need to go use the restroom, grab coffee, whatever, please feel free. But I don't know about you, I'm really excited about Tai Chi.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. And I am just getting blown away by these demos. It's the first time some of us are in the community or even seeing the final result. So if everyone wants to just get up again and kind of just like shake yourself out a bit, get all loose, just, make sure you can feel your limbs. Some of us may not be able to. And I kind of joke sometimes that I feel like the Chinese grandma of the community. But, you see those like grandmas at the park swinging and they're living some really long lives. So, I really hope to develop Qigong and Tai Chi as a practice. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of start at our head and just give ourselves like a nice little head massage from the front all the way to the back, and really just, work in the tips of our fingers into our scalp. Make sure you really get the back of your neck too. I think that's where a lot of these problems happen with staring at a screen. And once you get to your neck, we're going to do this thing, which is literally patting ourselves on the back. So just swing your arm and give your opposite shoulder a nice hard pat on the back. I think we all deserve it, especially in this pandemic. And the other one, just keep it real loose and really get that upper back. And now let's work on our arms. So we're essentially going to slap ourselves until we really feel alive in the moment. All the way up and down our arms. Make sure you work both sides. And, Qigong is often described as a moving meditation. So as you're doing this, don't just think about like the physical sensations, but remind yourself that you are alive, and that everything up until this point has made you who you are. And really get into that sensation of feeling the vibrations, feeling the nerves, feeling your blood, go all the way, give your butt a little love all the way down to your legs, vary it up and just shake yourself out again. And at this point, we're going to essentially settle ourselves down, bend our knees slightly, and imagine that you are a tree. And you're rooting yourself into the ground, rooting yourself into your land, rooting yourself into your home and your ancestry. And we're essentially going to take a deep breath and pull all of those roots, all of that energy and that history into us, acknowledge. And as we breathe in, we're going to push it into the sky. And once we reach the sky, we're going to exhale and let it all out. And the second time, we're going to think about, as we breathe in, we're going to think about all of the troubles and struggles we've had through us, acknowledging everything they've been, and push them out and let go. And the last time, this time, we're going to pull in all of the joy and all of the wonder and all of the curiosity in us, through us, into the sky, and let go. I'm going to shake out one more time. And the last exercise we're going to do here is pretty simple. You can, get back into your chair for this if you like. But we're essentially going to hold a ball of our energy. You can think of this as your own energy. You can think of this as the energy in the space around you. You can think of it as the energy out there in the world. And we're going to close our eyes and slowly expand our ball as we breathe in and contract our ball as we breathe out. And every time you do this, just focus on one thought. Expand, acknowledge, breathe out, and let go. And when I do this, I like to think about starting with myself, breathing in, feeling feelings of safety or harm, breathing out and letting go. And then expanding to my family, my friends, in and sending them that energy. And finally expanding into the world, acknowledging everything that's going on, taking it in, and sending that energy back. Thank you.
That was so great. I've never done any kind of Tai Chi before. I especially like the kind of energizing through slapping. That just felt really good towards the end of it. Cool. Thank you for leading that, Yang. All right. So next up we have Michael, and he's going to be presenting Tiny Care.
All right. Hey everyone, my name is Michael with I'm the founder and CEO of Tiny Care, which is a network of micro-daycares. And running an early childhood company, I got to start with my own childhood. This is me as a baby growing up in China. Had a really loving and happy upbringing in Southern California, just outside LA. And when I went to college at Harvard, I became a volunteer teacher. And working in classrooms in Boston and DC, I came to realize that not everyone had those same opportunities that I was afforded. And so my life's work for the last decade and beyond, it's really to try to ensure that every child has the opportunity to become the next Michelle Obama or Bill Gates. A few years ago, I came across research that 90% of brain volume actually develops by age 5. So for all the parents in the room, the Zoom room, you all know that firsthand. So I became a volunteer preschool teacher to try to understand this problem more clearly and realize that childcare is a quadlemma. I don't even know if this is a real word, but it is too expensive. It's the second most expensive thing after rent for most families. So specifically childcare, preschool, daycare between infancy and age 5 before kids go to kindergarten. It's too expensive. It's low supply. Even parents making $100,000 a year have difficulty finding daycare. Wait lists are 1 to 2 years long in places like San Francisco. Quality is variable across the board. And then finally, the teachers don't make enough money. And we talk about this with K-12 teachers, but daycare teachers actually make half as much as kindergarten teachers. So the teachers that I was volunteering with, many of them were living 2 hours out of the Bay Area, making $17 an hour and on public assistance. Ultimately, it's a market failure. I joined SPC in 2018 to figure out how to start a company to tackle these problems and realized that in the long run, we need government's help here. Because if childcare is both too expensive and the teachers are underpaid, we want to raise those wages to increase quality, price also goes up. So it's actually not possible to solve all 4 problems in the US at the same time for all families. But the policy environment right now is not very conducive to universal childcare. So what creative solutions can we come up with? At the same time as being an educator, both my parents are software engineers. So I've spent the last decade working at Google, at Minerva, a new university. And so was trying to put on my entrepreneurial hat and came up with TinyCare, which is a model of micro schools that tackles quality, that tackles supply. We're able to spin up centers much more quickly and also empowers our educators. So it solves 3 of those 4 problems. In the last year and a half, we've launched 5 TinyCares. This was our first one. 6 children ages for toddlers, Spanish bilingual in Soma in the East Cut area. Mission Bay toddler for its Mandarin bilingual. Also 6 children. We launched a preschool earlier this year, right before COVID, for 8 children, 3 to 5. It's a Montessori preschool. We launched another toddler program in Soma just a few months ago, and we just launched our dog patch location. And all of these micro school formats with 4 to 8 children total. And a big part of our model is great teachers. So we're able to attract some world-class teachers. We actually give all of our teachers equity. There's a sort of public company comp called Bright Horizons, which is a 7 billion market cap childcare company. And one of my thoughts is, if Bright Horizons had only given 5 to 10% of their cap table to their teachers at the beginning, many of them would be able to afford housing in the Bay Area. And so we really believe in treating our teachers well, which attracts the best, and they're the most important part of the experience. Life at TinyCare for children is joyful, it's curious, it's full of wonder. But it's also structured. This is nap time at TinyCare. You can see this is sort of a typical schedule. We use the word work because that's a Montessori term, and we believe that play is the work of the child, as Maria Montessori said. And this is what a curriculum looks like. Every single week, our teachers craft these Mandarin and Spanish bilingual lesson plans through a circle time and a project time. So the children are really getting the most holistic and intentional development in their environment. I wanted to actually show you all. During COVID, our sites were shut down for 2 months, and we actually continue to do daily live Zoom classes. So let's see if this audio works.
How many drop tools? 2. Okay, I'm gonna put this, everybody. 1, 2. Wow.
So that's a little taste of a circle time at TinyCare, whether Zoom or in person. We've actually been open since June 1st. And we've heard from our families that TinyCare has the best COVID policies of any school that I've seen. Everything from smart thermometers to antibody tests and HVAC UV lights. We've been on top of the latest research. And there's sort of this tectonic shift happening right now in education where parents are trying to form homeschool pods and micro schools. Turns out we basically already do that. And so we just announced our pods program, and we're seeing some crazy interest, dozens of families looking to start their own TinyCare in a neighborhood near them. So we're lucky to have some great investors on board, including SPC, so no need for funding right now, but always looking for more parents. If any of you on the call are parents or have friends in the Bay Area, tinycare.co. And then we're also looking to build the team to be able to cope with all this demand and interest. So please shoot me an email. If specifically, we're looking for a head of growth and marketing. We're looking for a chief of staff and a head of operations. So always looking for great people if you're interested in this mission of transforming childcare in America.
Thank you, Michael. That was lovely. Thanks for sharing that and what you're working on. I have multiple questions, but I guess one of them is that how would you say TinyCare compares to some of the others like Brightwheel and Wonder School, I believe?
Yeah. So Brightwheel is just a software platform for daycares and preschools. Wonder School is a marketplace for in-home daycares. And our approach is vertically integrated. So our big belief in talking to a lot of families is that quality and location are the 2 most important things. So a marketplace model, I think, works really well in a world where you have really high transaction volume and repeated transactions, something like Airbnb or Instacart. But in a world where you're making 1 or 2 childcare decisions and you really want the best thing for your child, our belief is that we really need to build a brand and we have to have the best quality out there. So we've sort of figured out a way to vertically integrate while being much more scalable with this micro school model than a Bright Horizons or one of these billion-dollar like large daycare chains.
Thank you, Michael. I guess if we have time for one more question, is that this is probably a composite of multiple questions. How would you, how are you approaching the like the model so that way the prices are not as expensive as some of the other existing daycares?
Yeah, so again, it comes back to subsidy. And so there's actually a couple of creative subsidy sources that we've found. One is real estate. So we've been striking partnerships with real estate providers who see this as an amenity for their buildings. And then the other thing is corporate. So companies who want to provide this as a benefit, that allows us to actually have the holy grail, which is solving all 4 problems. But ultimately, we're actually trying to be part of a coalition to push for policy change.
Thank you. That was fantastic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Nelson, and I'm joined by my co-founder, Noah Goel. We actually met through South Park Commons, and incidentally, not even while we were there at the same time. So we actually met through the SPC Slack after I had already alumnized, but was thinking about starting a company in this space. And Noah and I teamed up to start Tribe.ai, which is your outsourced AI lab. So hopefully by the end of this, that will make sense. The quick preview is that we're a services company, which I know can be a bit of an unsexy word in the tech community. Let me just see. There we go. So prior to founding Tribe, I had worked at Capital G, and Noah was at Gigster, and we had heard from companies this problem of actually getting started with using machine learning. And it sort of falls into a few buckets. The first is like this cold start. How do I, I'm already a believer. I believe automation. I've heard about this. I've read about it in the Wall Street Journal. I believe it can drive a ton of value for my business, but I don't actually know how to do that. And I certainly don't know if I have the pieces in place to actually be able to do that. Is like my data in the right form, et cetera. The next problem we hear is the talent problem. So, how do I find this talent? Where are they? Turns out a lot of them are actually here in the SPC community and on this this call. But even if I do find them, how do I actually assess them? I hear from founders all the time, like, I don't even know what to screen for. How do I know if I find the right fit? Particularly if I don't have someone on my team who has that skill set. And then, the classic startup problem, which is I need help yesterday. I have like a mountain of work and tons of projects that need to get done. I just don't have enough people to execute on them. And so we really set out to found Tribe to solve this pain, to solve this problem for founders and connect them to top machine learning engineers to work together on a contracting and consulting basis. And there are definitely times where it makes sense for a longer term fit as well. And so we also work on a contract to hire basis as well, and take a fee off of any transactions that go through our platform. Trying to go to the next slide. There we go. Too many. So what we've built is a community of machine learning engineers, data scientists, data engineers, and researchers. There are about 100 of us, and they come from incredible technical backgrounds, places like Google and OpenAI. And in a pre-COVID world, we all gathered via in-person events and regular machine learning dinners in New York and San Francisco. That was my old apartment, which unfortunately I no longer live in. In addition to this community of peers, people who, where you might have lost that if you left your PhD program or left your job at Google, where you were surrounded by tons of people who did similar work and had similar interests. We also really see this value in creating these opportunities for people to get the community to get hands-on experience working with companies, and sort of seeing applications of machine learning across different businesses and across different industries. And so that screenshot on the bottom is actually like a weekend working session on a pro bono project we took on for the CDC during COVID. So there's sort of this mix of volunteer projects and then also some of these more corporate consulting, formal consulting engagements. And for us, the magic is in making the right matches between the company and the talent that's in our network. And so that starts obviously with spending time with the companies and understanding what they need and what their problems are that they're trying to solve. It also means really knowing our talent deeply. And so we've created this talent database where anyone who joins our community we have a pretty robust intake process to really understand what industries they have experience in, what have they done before. So here you see, this is a screenshot, Microsoft, Goldman, MIT, YC, like great brands. But what we're trying to do is actually get a better sense of what did you do there? What are the types of projects and problems you've solved? What are your ML superpowers? So that we actually know how to match them to the right environments. And we even go ahead and conduct references on them as well to really understand the types of environments they would thrive in. And then we also have a community Slack, of course. The fact that Noah and I met through the SPC Slack was part of that inspiration, but where we can post jobs and people can opt in. And what you see here is sort of volume of responses and responses within 2 minutes of, there's just a lot of demand for this type of work and to have access to these types of projects. And so to give you just a quick snapshot of our customers, I imagine this audience is quite familiar with the startup use case. These tend to be tech-savvy companies that are building data science and machine learning solutions from the earliest days of their business. But this very much is not just a Silicon Valley problem. And so we work really closely also with the sleepy businesses, the private equity firm, private equity funded models like an aviation company or an insurance company focused on electricians and roofers, and even sort of the behemoths of the large Fortune 500 enterprise companies who know they can attract this type of talent, but where they can get so much value from working with these people. And then I'll pause here, but just give you a bit of a sense of, 1 or 2 projects. One is working with Fortune 500 insurance company. They actually needed an entire data governance framework for a sandbox to even be able to share data with third-party partners. Until then, despite their model being this affiliate structure, they actually had no way to even share data. And this is, a huge company whose name you would know, who didn't even have sort of some of this basic ability. So I will pause there. Thank you so much, and open to any questions.
Thank you, Jackie. That was fantastic. I have a question. I have multiple questions, but one of them is, the first one is that, how do you match the demand, or rather on the other side?
Match the demand, meaning
as in I guess finding the team members, or the certain roles for where the clients or the others want.
The demand side. Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge with any marketplace is you're solving for both sides. I think we really spent, I would say we spent the sort of first focus of Tribe was on getting that starter network. And we actually kept it quite small in the beginning to just really make sure, A, that we kept the quality extremely high, and B, that we were able to kind of, make sure we were in line with demand and not over-promising to our community either. And then we really shifted focus to going all in on customers, and did that in 2 ways. One was focused on startups that can move really quickly. Some of our customers we meet and we already are live with someone within a week, or even a few days. And then also building these longer term relationships with enterprise companies that can take up to a year. And so we've been working on this business for a year now and have many of those relationships in place, and then have tried to grow the supply side in line. But Noah's on the call in case there's anything he wants to add as well.
No, that's perfect.
Awesome. I have another question, which is why specifically applied ML? Are there any plans to expand to other fields?
Noah, want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, so I think from my experience working with the Fortune 500 at a Gigster, I saw like a real need there, and Jackie felt that same exact thing when she supported the portfolio at Capital G. So it just seemed very obvious. Not only that, like the past decade, all these sleepier businesses need to become software companies to survive. And we believe that in the next decade, that transformation is going to be around AI and machine learning. When it comes to other verticals, yeah, I think it's interesting. It's definitely in the roadmap, but we could probably build like a very large, interesting business for only machine learning over the next like 5+ years. And plus, there is so much magic when you have the community focused on only AI and machine learning. So that's like really special.
Thank you, Noah. Thanks, Jackie. That was fantastic.
Great. Yeah, thank you both. Cool. All right, so next up we have Souffle, and it's presented by Pradeep. Pradeep, are you there? Are you on mute?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just trying to share my screen. Just give me one.
I can hear you, but you're quite faint.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
A little.
Trying to share my screen. There you go. Okay. Can you guys hear me fine now?
I mean, I can hear you, but yeah, maybe, speak up as much as possible, because I think it's just the mic on your end is a little lower.
Oh, okay. I can yell. That's fine. Yeah. Hey guys, we are Pradeep and Soumya. We are the founders of Souffle, a professional community with a twist. Personal clout matters a lot more online than it should today. Like the insights and people that you discover online are incredibly biased by the number of followers they have and how well they market themselves and build a brand. Like even if you write thoughtful, insightful articles and posts, it will not be read by a lot of people unless you already have a massive number of followers and have the right folks who can retweet it, share it, and just like it. And as a result of all of this, the content itself has taken a backseat to marketing the content. So that's why we built Souffle as a professional community where only the best insights rise to the top. So how does it work? Pretty simple. We post one interesting question every 3 days. All the answers are anonymous during the voting period. And users can basically upvote the answers that they find interesting or insightful. And of course, the authors get to know immediately who are the people who are upvoting their answers. And at the end of the poll, we reveal the identity of the top 3 authors and who voted for them to everyone publicly. The questions are like, do you think Substack will win? What do you think is the biggest risk to making it? So it focuses on like startups and startup strategy stuff. So why the ephemeral anonymity? Primarily to remove the unconscious or conscious bias that we all have when reading content online. The anonymity essentially ensures that only the best insightful answers win because of the substantiveness of the answer as opposed to who's written it. It also helps with reducing friction. There's no downside in writing an answer. Like people aren't worried right now about writing a lame answer on Souffle because we only reveal the identity if in case it wins as the top 3 answer. Just to put that into perspective, we have like about 40% of our users on the site who have written at least one answer. And typically for most user-generated content sites, that number is closer to 1%. And the ephemeral part of it means that the top authors also get credit for being thoughtful and insightful. So in short, on Souffle, it's not about who you are, it's more about what you have to say. So let me switch to a demo. So this is basically what Souffle.club looks like. And this was a recent question that we asked, or rather the question was asked by Nathan Bashes. Some of you may know him as like the founder of Divinations, a newsletter, and he was previously the VP of product at Substack. The question was a fun question about like, if you were the founder of Quibi, what would you focus on now? And we had plenty of great answers. And like we heard from our users that they're learning something that they didn't know, and they're getting to consume like a wide variety of perspectives, which they find delightful. And of course, when the poll is over, you can essentially you can see who the top 3 authors were and what they basically wrote and who voted for them and all of that. So the too long didn't watch for Souffle is pretty simple. It's discover insightful perspectives, discover and connect with thoughtful people. And if you guys are interested, the current question actually was asked by Ivan. I think Ivan's also on the call today. And it's about like, well, do you guys think that YC Summer 2020 companies as an index, or the companies which are going IPO right now this month, which would do better as an index? So if you guys have great answers, feel free to write it out. Or if in case we already have a bunch of answers, feel free to go and upvote the ones that you think are interesting as well. And before you guys leave, just one other fun fact. For the first question that we had about the Substack question, we had close to about, am I sharing the right screen? Yes. So we had close to about like 20 different authors, and who collectively had about like 500,000 followers on Twitter. However, the top 2 winners were essentially people who had less than like 1,000 followers on Twitter. I think this clearly shows that like the high quality content today doesn't get the distribution it deserves on other platforms. So that's us, Souffle. Go check out Souffle at Souffle.club and let us know what you guys have to say about the product or the feedback, or if you guys have great answers to write as well.
Thank you, Pradeep. That's awesome. I have a question here, which is that, are you allowing others to submit questions? And how do you plan to open up the platform beyond the current questions?
So it is open right now. We intentionally chose not to make it an invite-only thing, given that the whole point is to attract credentialism and people who don't have a voice. It would be kind of antithetical to make it an invite-only platform. So it is already open, and people can basically submit questions right at the bottom of Souffle.club. You can essentially see other questions that people have submitted, upvote the questions, and we'll essentially pick and choose which questions are the most upvoted ones for the next one.
Brilliant. I have another question here, which is that how do the best authors get clout on other platforms?
For the time being, it's mostly on Souffle.club itself, and we essentially retweet it and share it onto other platforms as well. But over time, we plan to tie your professional identity to the answers that you've written, and Souffle.club itself becomes one of your professional identities.
Awesome, Pradeep. Thank you. That was great.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Great, thank you. So you guys have been really patient. I really appreciate you hanging in here. This is the last presentation of the day. We have Ahmed, and he's presenting Unit 21.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Fantastic. Let me just jump on the screen share. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Ahmed. It's actually Ahmed, but that's hard to pronounce for a lot of people, so Ahmed works. I'm actually filling in today for our CEO, Trisha Kotari. She's out on vacation. So let me give a little bit of intro on me as well. I always like to say something about me before I start speaking. Fun fact, I grew up in New Zealand. So if you don't know much about New Zealand, it's basically like a sophisticated version of Australia. And that's all there is. I've been at Unit 21 for about 4 months now. It's been phenomenal. We've seen close to 600% growth since I've joined. And it's just been fun and engaging to work in this industry. And let me lead with that. Like, what industry are we in? So Unit 21, the easiest way to think about it is an operating system for suspicious activity. And so what does suspicious activity mean? Well, we talk about financial fraud and money laundering. So if you think about fraud, like how much money do we lose globally just in fraud alone every year? Well, the answer to that is actually between 2 to 5% of global GDP. So we're looking at $2 trillion that's lost every single year in fraud. So why is it important for companies to combat fraud or money laundering, or this, suspicious activity as we call it? Well, the reason is the majority of money laundering or fraud doesn't just happen because people are looking to make a quick buck. It happens because they're funding terrorist activity or some other human trafficking, very illicit behavior. So it's in the best interest of financial institutions or any institution that's dealing with finances to have a solution in place that can detect this kind of activity and prevent it from happening in the first place. Right now, something like 1 to 2% of all fraud is actually captured. So if you think about that, there's 98 to 99% of fraud out there just occurs. And so it's very important for any financial company is always sweating, thinking about these things. I mean, you think about a platform like Airbnb. Airbnb is just, it's a place you're gonna rent a rental, go out with your family and enjoy a couple nights out on the town and the beach somewhere. Well, the reality is Airbnb is a finances platform. It's a marketplace, right? And so what can happen is I could set up a fake Airbnb and have my buddy who is a terrorist, drug smuggler, arms trafficker, just start sending me his illicit money into my fake Airbnb. Just pay me $2,000 a night to rent it out. And situations like that happen every single day. That's how people clean their dirty money. And so we built a platform that prevents that. And without going too far into it, let me just jump into the demo. So if you think about how people or how companies have been solving this problem for a long time, there's two things. First of all, there's what we call, that's kind of like outdated legacy software that they use, right? These sit on top, they have some algorithmic activity, and it detects patterns, what we call suspicious activity patterns. So there's that, and then there's in-house teams, where basically this is the majority of the world today does it like this. You have an engineering team that supports the risk and compliance teams in any organizations. You say, hey, Fred, I need something in place that detects market manipulation, right? Because I run an exchange. Fred's gonna come in, bring 10 engineers, and they're gonna just set everything up for us. So the problem with that is risk and compliance teams aren't empowered. Like the investigations teams are not empowered to understand what's happening because it's all tech heavy engineering. And engineering teams aren't incentivized to do the work because for them, they're focused on innovation, on the product, right? To them, this is just an extra leg of work, even though it's extremely essential. So we've built this, there's two things I'll show you guys today, but basically we've built this rules engine. This is just a highly customizable rules engine. All it does is ingests your information and you're able to build rules. What are rules? They're just models, complex models. And using these models, you can test them, validate them, and then deploy them. And once deployed in your environment, every single transaction that comes through in real time runs against these rules. And if any suspicious activity is flagged, it's recorded. So a couple of interesting things that differentiate us that make us really stand out. Let's say I want to make like a velocity rule, right? And how many users made more than 5 $10,000 transactions in the last 10 days. That's an example of a rule I can make. You see these filters? This filter is basically just any data fields that a company has, right? That have anything to do with anti-money laundering or risk, right? We have a data agnostic platform that can ingest any kind of data and give you custom data fields. So what you can start doing is take standard or reserved fields, as we call them, things like your first and your last name, risk score, amount of money, things that are just industry standard. You can start aggregating that with information, very niche information that companies have on individuals. So they can ingest any information. You could say hair color, right? If for some reason you think that the color of someone's hair might tie into suspicious activity, go by all means, if you have that data, go ahead and aggregate it. And then we have all of these scenarios. And we're used by companies like Intuit, Coinbase, Chipper Cash, who's actually the largest payments processor in Africa. So there's a lot of very interesting companies with interesting use cases. But these are just scenarios. These are just complex, we call it explainable AI in this industry, but explainable AI models. And if you simply just click into one, right? What you see is the variables. You configure the variables, so it's become drag and drop. Now, what have we done? We've taken something that previously involves an 8 to 10 person engineering team in the Silicon Valley and broke it down so someone without a computer science background can go in and start creating these complex logic. So this is like historical deviations, right? We're looking for every single transaction that is greater than 1,500% compared with the average transaction amount of that user over the prior however many days. We're looking for like freak things. And this has probably happened to all of you in your credit cards before, right? Where you've been frauded before. This is how people detect this activity using this. And the idea of Unit 21 is right now we serve the space. This rules engine is just phenomenal in this space. It makes a lot of sense, and you're preventing a huge issue. But the idea is to eventually open it up so that this can be used by any enterprise, by any company, by any individual. This is just a rules engine. You can build whatever rules you want to flag, whatever things you wish to flag. So this is the rules engine that our customers use, and we're seeing a huge wave in that this is something that is gaining more importance. Regulations are getting tighter, and there's just an increasingly growing need for something like this. And quite frankly, just having a couple of engineers in your company build out something that is going to prevent arms trafficking, human trafficking, terrorist activity just doesn't cut it. You need something world class. And so the second part of our platform is what we call KYC. If you're not familiar with KYC, it just means know your customer. Before a bank, like we've all like applied for a credit card or something, they do a background check on you. So for any entity, for any user, any business, before you jump in and get registered with a bank, they're going to do a check on you. They typically go through about 5 or 6 different vendors, data providers, to get these verifications on you. So they ask you to send them some information, they return some results. What we did was we partnered with all the top data bureaus, and this is things like Federal Bureau data, international government agencies, to get a really rich data platform where now banks simply do an API call, or financial institutions or any enterprise to us with that user's information, and we're able to return, hey, this is their IDs, this is the document verification they underwent. You can see the results, you can see what's forged and what's not forged, etc. You can see the results of their ID verification, watch list screening. We can pick specific watch lists that we screen them against. These are all terrorist watch lists, Canada freezing assets, etc. And we can finally look at adverse media screenings as well. So we can basically populate an entire risk history on this individual, and they can decide whether to manually approve it or manually reject it. But the whole idea of Unit 21 is everything is automated. Through this explainable AI, it's completely automated. In the industry today, there's too many of these manual approve, manual reject, what we call a false positive. You have bad rules in place, you have bad policy in place, you're overwhelmed with people submitting. What does that mean for a bank? It means that they have 100 applicants because they have a crappy process that doesn't work well. People get stuck. Have you been there where they're asking you to send documents and you have to send a photo of your passport because you failed this? It's a bad internal workflow, and they actually capture a lot less people. If Wells Fargo does that to me, I might just go sign up to Capital One, right? I don't have time. So what we're doing is we're helping their business on the bottom line, as well as preventing risk and fraud. And so these are 2 of our core products that we're seeing a lot of traction with right now. And that's basically it. Like in a nutshell, that's what Unit 21 is out sitting and doing. We actually just finished fundraising another round. Yeah, we've been lucky to work with fantastic investors. Obviously, like SPC, we've been introduced to a lot of very useful people in the industry, and we've just seen a lot of traction, success, and we're very grateful, especially in a time like this, to be solving some problems in the world. So all the presenters, thank you so much. Everything was fascinating. All the attendees, thank you so much for attending. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead.
Thanks, Ahmed. That was awesome. I have a couple of questions here. One of them is that, can you tie in compliance policies? So for example, for banks, your rule engines don't trigger fair lending laws. I'm not sure if that makes sense for you.
Yeah. So this is actually highly customizable using those filters, but these scenarios can be used in any financial institution. I mean, Intuit as an example. This is like what you see right here, these rows in front of you. You can basically, they look quite like simple just when you look at it as a scenario, but if you actually jump in, you can make them as complex as you want or as simple as you want. So we can absolutely solve everything a bank would be looking for. We have this, there's one rule, it's called a sequence rule. This is one of the most common things in the industry. It's you look for a sequence of suspicious activity. It can either be consecutive or non-consecutive. So just using Python, you could type in something like, let's say we're looking at, South Commons, transaction type equals, let's say something simple like a deposit. Sorry. And then this would say withdrawals, not deposit. But then we look for a string of withdrawals followed by deposit, right? And the amount is like greater than 10,000 or something like that. But from a compliance perspective, this complies with every single government regulation. So just simply buying Unit 21 is basically giving our customers full compliance with any regulations in the United States and in Canada.
Thank you. That was really insightful again. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. So just to wrap up, let me jump over here. So look, this was really exciting. It's been about a month in planning. Thank you so much to all the presenters for taking a risk and coming out here and doing a live demonstration. It's not easy, and that's the reason why most of the time when you see companies presenting, they don't do that, and instead they're just clicking through slides, something like that. Everyone out here is really passionate about the projects they're working on. I think it comes through in the presentation. So I'm so appreciative to all our alumni for taking the time. Thank you to all my co-hosts. They're doing a ton of work in the background. It was actually really wild to see. I was trying to just wing this event as earlier this week, and that I would have totally fallen flat on my face. So they really bailed me out here. Thank you. And if you're interested in learning more about South Park Commons, like becoming a member, the link to apply is here. Obviously, you can't click on this screen share link, but it's you can just find it on our website. And then the guys at Room wanted to host a happy hour afterwards so that people could chat more casually, because we've had everyone on mute and kind of locked down. This would be a way to just go over there and you can break out into different rooms and sub conversations and catch up with people. So if less than 30 people show up, then the first link will be great. It'll just be room.video/SPC. And if there's more than 30 people, we have like an overflow room that'll work as well. So if you'd love to continue the conversation, I'm heading over there now, and I'll see you in room. Oh, and one last thing. There's a Twitter thread going on tied to the South Park Commons Twitter handle. You can also use our hashtag, which is SPC Demo Faire. And we'd love to hear from you on social media as to what you like today, any feedback you have. If you want to share highlights, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. I'm heading over to room.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.